Good evening, everybody. It's 6:30, and I'll call this meeting of Lancaster City Council for June 11th, 2024 to order. A couple of reminders at the top of tonight's meeting. This is a great opportunity now to silence your phones or devices if you haven't done so already. This meeting and its participants are being recorded. There will be several opportunities tonight for public comment. If you wish to make comment, you must do so at the podium or in a microphone so that you can be heard in this room and on our live stream. Please begin comments with your name and block of residence for the meeting record, or municipality if you live outside of the city for the meeting record. Comments should also be addressed toward council. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker and should address issues that have or may come before council as legislation. To keep time, you will see this light turn green when someone begins to speak. It will turn yellow when there's 1 minute remaining and turn red when 3 minutes has been exhausted. Thank you in advance for helping us keep the same amount of time for everyone. And now for all of those who are willing and able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Harris, would you please call the roll of members?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Ahmed.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Here. Sorry. Here.
Mr. Glees.
Here.
Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz.
Here.
Mr. Hirsch.
Here.
And President Baker.
Here. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the May 28th, 2024 meeting of council.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any council comments on the minutes? Hearing none. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Ahmed.
Aye.
Mr. Royo.
Aye.
Mr. Glees.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
And President Baker.
Aye. The next item on our agenda is proclamations, honors, awards, and resolutions of recognition. Tonight we have several, and I just want to make a note that there's going to be an order change, just because some folks had some time constraints this evening. So we're going to begin with resolution number 45, recognizing Genesis Castro. Mr. Harris. I should have told you ahead of time I was changing the order. I apologize.
Council Resolution Number 45, a resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster recognizing Genesis Castro for winning a gold medal at the PIAA Track and Field Championship and setting a new J.P. McCaskey High School record for the discus throw.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. This is being originated by Councilor Diaz.
Due to time, I'm not going to read the whole resolution, but I do want to make remarks in regards to her accomplishments. She is a first generation from the Dominican Republic, and she was able to accomplish it by working hard, even though she had hurdles that she had to overcome when she injured herself. But she continued, and she continues showing that other young women that are going to be coming up can look up to her and say that they can do it as well. So Genesis accomplished going to winning the medal and going through 138-8 feet. That's pretty high. And also she threw the disc, and that's hard for a woman to do and accomplish as well. So as a McCaskey graduate coming up next year, she will continue her desire to making not only her mother happy and proud, but all the young Latina girls that may have doubt the potential of overcoming stereotypes and discrimination. I will say that being someone that is a family of immigrants in Lancaster, it can be very harsh, but you have accomplished it, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of being a McCaskey graduate myself, and also being part of track. So I do have your resolution here, which I can bring down to you.
Councilor Diaz, just give us one moment for procedure.
Oh, we have to vote.
We have to vote. Are there any other council comments on the resolution? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Med,
Aye.
Mr. Royal,
Aye.
Mr. Cleese,
Aye.
Ms. Gregg,
Aye.
Ms. Diaz,
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch,
Aye.
and President Baker.
Aye. Counselor Diaz. Congratulations. All right. And again, because of some time constrictions that folks had, we're going a little bit out of order for these resolutions. The next item will be Resolution Number 43, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster recognizing June 2024 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Queer, Intersex, and Asexual Pride Month in the City of Lancaster, and encouraging all people to work to advance the cause of equality towards achieving a safe community that appreciates its diversity in all its forms for generations to come.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. It's my pleasure to introduce the Pride Month resolution this year. It's been a particularly tough year for the LGBTQ plus community in Lancaster this year. There have been attacks on the community here, right in our city. And we recognize Pride Month each year because we know that we still have a long way to go in ending prejudice and discrimination. And we recognize Pride Month because we know that everyone deserves dignity and equal rights. I'm looking over here because we have members of Lancaster Pride that are with us tonight, and I thank them for their assistance in drafting this resolution. I have a copy to present to them, which I'll have the pleasure of doing this Saturday at Pride Festival. It's Saturday the 15th. It starts at noon, right? Starts at noon. I'll be presenting them this resolution at 3:30. But I would invite everyone to come out because the streets are open for all. Are there any other council comments on the resolution? Comments from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Med,
Aye.
Mr. Royo,
Aye.
Mr. Cleese,
Aye.
Ms. Gregg,
Aye.
Ms. Diaz,
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch,
Aye.
President Baker.
Aye.
And we get,
Thank you. And I'll see you at Pride on Saturday.
and I'm sorry, can we get the motion and second on that again?
The motion and the second was Councilor Ahmed.
Councilor Med and Councilor Royal.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right. We're going back to our original order now with Resolution Number 42, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster recognizing June 2024 as Immigrant Heritage Month and June 20th as World Refugee Day in the City of Lancaster, and noting the contributions of immigrants and refugees to creating the culture and economy of Lancaster.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Ahmed.
Thank you, Council President. As you are aware, the City of Lancaster celebrates Immigrant Heritage Month and World Refugee Day each year by resolution. And as a former refugee and victim of political unrest, it is an honor to recognize Immigrant Heritage and World Refugee Day here in Lancaster City. This city has provided my family safety and the American dream when we resettled here as refugees in 1997 to the 300 block of West Grand Street. I personally can attest to Lancaster's welcoming spirit, where we help our newest neighbors get acclimated and get access to services in their new homes, which is why Lancaster is the model for refugee resettlement and the leader in welcoming across the nation. This year, the United Nations High Commission for Refugees' theme for World Refugee Day is Solidarity with Refugees for a world where refugees are welcomed. But we must go further than welcoming. We must also bear witness and call for peace to mitigate the unrest refugees have to flee in the first place. Council President, that is why I will be introducing a ceasefire resolution with input from Palestinian and Jewish community members, as well as activists, organizers, and multiple Lancaster organizations at our next meeting at the June 25th meeting of Council, so we can call for peace, continue to be leaders, and like this year's World Refugee Day theme, stand in solidarity with refugees for a world where refugees are welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Ahmed. I have received that resolution. We have met about this, and it will be on our agenda on the 25th. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. I also wanted to recognize Ramucho Karakezi, who is the CWS refugee community organizer, who may want to share some words about this year's World Refugee Day, Immigrant Heritage Month, and Lancaster Spirit of Welcoming.
Thank you. Come on up. Good evening. Could you just make sure the green light is on the microphone?
Oh, hey, it is.
Thank you.
I was not born here, so I don't know what it is. My name is Guamucho Karakezi. I am originally from Democratic Republic of Congo, and I was a refugee over 2 decades. Last 2 months, I became a U.S. citizen. I'm very happy for that. I'm a resident for Lancaster. I live in Coral Street, 100 Brock. I work for CWS as a refugee and immigrant community organizer. I'm very thankful for Lancaster City and the USA in general that they welcome me and some of my family, not all of them. I'm still waiting that all of them will be resettled and I'll be unified with them. As a country with a lot of opportunity, but I agree that the refugee and immigrants who have been here can be recognized their contribution to this country and to this city. Many times, a lot of refugee and immigrants, when they face a lot of challenge, which is unusual, a lot of resources were built for American. Many people did not think for refugees and immigrants to be resettled. Language barriers, and people, they don't know if an employment documents and refugee documents, immigrant documents, many times you go to ask them a job, they cannot recognize your document. As why we have been advocating for our Office of New Pennsylvania, where we can have advocacy. And I'm very thankful for City of Lancaster to pass a resolution to support Office of New Pennsylvania, which is HB 1630. I would like that Lancaster City can know how much refugee and immigrants contribute in economy, culturally, also how many refugees were resettled and immigrants who are here and who are contributing for the city. Many times when we go to advocate, when a refugee asks a lot of elected officials the questions in the national level, in the district level, they're like, how many refugees are you talking with? But you can now go and find the number for how many non-USA born living in Lancaster, but this data will help people to speak on their behalf. I'm very thankful for Lancaster. I will never choose another city to live in. I love it, but also I want to be better. Thank you very much, and we want to recognize that as a refugee here, now a U.S. citizen, a lot of people around the world are suffering. No one can be a refugee for their choice. You become a refugee because you are forced. I want to thank everyone who recognized a lot of people in Palestine, in Israel. Some part of Israel also were moved from another city. We want to recognize and support anything which can support people to stay in their home and have freedom. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments from council on Resolution 42, recognizing Immigrant Heritage Month and World Refugee Day? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Mena.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Bacon.
Aye. Thank you.
Council President, I do have a copy of the resolution to give to Mr. Carcasi for his efforts and his organizing here in Lancaster.
Thank you, please do. All right, the last item on this part of our agenda is resolution number, we're out of order, 44. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster recognizing June 19, 2024 as Juneteenth in the City of Lancaster and calling upon all Lancastrians to honor the dignity, culture, and contributions of African Americans to the history and life of the City of Lancaster.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. As we all know, Juneteenth is the 19th of June, and a little history on Juneteenth. On January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring all enslaved Africans held in his states, then in rebellion, shall be then there be henceforth and forevermore free. The enslaved in most of the country then demanded their freedom. But because word traveled so slowly to the westernmost Confederate state of Galveston, Texas, on June 19, 1865, they heard the news and the Emancipation Proclamation was read aloud by General Granger. This day came to be known as Juneteenth and celebrated with festivities to honor the Black communities and to pay homage to all the Africans that paved the way for freedom in America. President Biden signed the document in 2021, making Juneteenth a national holiday. So, with that, so many people talk about, the different things, different holidays that stand for, but this one is near and dear to my heart on one side and maybe not so near and dear on the other, mostly because there's still a lot of things that need to be worked on as far as the racial divide in the United States. In Lancaster City, I've lived here for 60-some years, and it has gotten so much better here as in comparison to other places that I have been in the United States. So, with that, I don't have anything else to add to that. Are there any further questions from council?
Thank you, Councilor Craig. I just want to make mention that the City of Lancaster is holding a flag raising for Juneteenth
Absolutely.
on June 19th at 10:45 right here in front of City Hall, and all are welcome to join us for that. Are there any additional comments from council on the resolution? Comments from the public? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Roland Forbes, pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, president of the Intercity Progressive Pastors Association, member of the NAACP. I was asked by President Blanding Watson to come and to make quick comments concerning this resolution, certainly to show our appreciation for, again, the City Council and the City of Lancaster recognizing this important date. In the tradition of the Black Church, every year we hold what we call Watch Night. all of African American churches across this country, and even outside of this country, will gather on New Year's Eve. And the watch is that they were watching for the ratification of slavery from President Lincoln, to make sure that slavery was abolished. We're still feeling the effects of that. A lot of people I've recently watched on TikTok, the discussion of people that still feel that Juneteenth in and of itself is not warranted as a federal holiday. That suggests to us that there are people that really don't understand what it means in terms of the effects of being enslaved, nor the effects that it can have on generations for generations to come. But it is up to us to continually educate the public, to show them and to educate them as to the importance of not just some people, but it should be important to all of us as we began to reflect upon the fact that the country has, Councilman Craig, to come a long way, but yet we still have a very long way to go. We were all from one creator. We are all of one blood. We are all of one country. But yet the divisions still remain to show themselves and to divide us on every turn. Yet, I think that with this resolution, with this celebration, with all of us gathered here together, that we can make an effort to understand one another, to work with one another, to educate one another, to hold up one another, in order that we might be able to reach the epitome of what our Constitution said, that it was created for all men, that all men might be able to celebrate this country together. So I thank you. Amen. I thank you. And God bless you, and heaven smile upon you. Again, we remind everyone to please come and celebrate with us on the 19th at 10:45. There are other events. There's a luncheon at the Bethel AME Church following the flag raising, and the city has many events going on for the rest of that week. So please come and share. We're better together than we are divided. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Are there any additional public comments on the resolution for Juneteenth? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Mehta? Aye. Mr. Roy?
Aye.
Mr. Please? Aye. Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch?
Aye.
And President Bailey?
Aye.
President, I do have one other announcement to make.
Yes.
On June 21st at Bennett Park and York Plaza will be another celebration in continuance of the celebration of Juneteenth.
Terrific. Thank you very much. That's the Juneteenth Jubilee. There we go. Thank you so much. All right. We are on to our next part of our agenda. This is the first public comment period, and I know that there were some folks that were just here for the first resolution, so actually I'll give you a pause if you'd like to step out. I know that some folks had to go. You will not hurt our feelings. As we do that, I'll just make the announcement. We're moving into our first public comment period. This is reserved for residents who contacted the city clerk prior to the meeting to request the opportunity to address city council. Again, the duration of comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. I will keep time with the light here. Please begin with your name and your block of residence for the meeting record or your municipality if you're not a city resident. We know we have several this evening. Mr. Harris, who is our first speaker this evening?
Madam President, first is Lisa McKay.
Good evening.
Good evening. Sawona. My name is Polisa Mackey, and I live in Lancaster City. I'm here today to speak in support of the ceasefire resolution and to thank City Councilperson Ahmed for introducing it. We are 76 years and 8 months into witnessing Israel's violent occupation and genocide of the Palestinian people in occupied Palestine. This includes Gaza and the West Bank. Over 40,000 Palestinian men, women, and children have been slaughtered with our U.S. taxpayer dollars and U.S. weapons provided to the apartheid state of Israel. I say apartheid because according to Amnesty International, quote, Israel imposes a system of oppression and domination against Palestinians across all areas under its control, in Israel and the occupied Palestine territories, and against Palestinian refugees in order to benefit Jewish Israelis. And this amounts to apartheid as prohibited under international law. Laws, policies, and practices which are intended to maintain a cruel system of control over Palestinians have left them fragmented geographically and politically, frequently impoverished and in a constant state of fear and insecurity, end quote. The existence of this apartheid regime has been confirmed by the United Nations and Human Rights Watch, as well as 7 other internationally recognized human rights groups. And as the first-generation daughter of South African and Bahamian immigrant parents, I know all too well the violence that occupation and apartheid can cause to a people and their descendants. The Afrikaans National Party's apartheid regime and oppression of my people in South Africa and Zimbabwe, formerly known as Rhodesia, only ended 1 year after I was born. I grew up hearing stories of the student uprisings, the state-sanctioned violence, the disenfranchisement of my family. And this regime that killed and oppressed millions of my people was heavily supported by both the United States and Israel. I believe this context is important to understand where we are today. The U.S. has consistently and continuously at every turn provided political and financial cover for this genocide, despite overwhelming evidence of the Israeli occupation forces blocking humanitarian aid from entering Gaza, dropping bunker bombs on hospitals, schools, mosques, churches, and massacring children, 15,000 to be exact, though the numbers increase by the day. Our country is currently the largest financial supporter of this genocide and is in fact helping Israel to ethnically cleanse Palestinians from the land, as well as killing Israeli hostages. This must not be allowed to continue. As a citizen of Lancaster, as someone who is proud to be a South African and Caribbean woman, as a community organizer who has been out in the streets demanding justice for all, I implore you to use your power as city council members to introduce and pass this ceasefire resolution. In doing so, you can add more pressure to our federal government and legislators in demanding an end to this genocide, an end to the crimes against humanity, and be a voice for each and every Palestinian who lives in this county, who has had to watch their people be burned alive in their beds, starved and tortured in Israeli prisons. I implore you to take a stand for humanity. I'm almost done. Because while we are standing here considering the logistics of passing a resolution that should have been passed before, another family tree has been exterminated off the face of the earth. Their blood cries out from the ground for justice. Ceasefire now, free Palestine.
Our next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Jackie Snyder.
Hello,
Good evening.
I'm Jackie Snyder. I'm from the 600 block of West Chestnut. I just came to say that I strongly support the ceasefire resolution. I'm glad that one has been proposed. Thank you. I hope that you all will pass it. It's the right and only thing to do. While I've been here too, I noticed that Pride Month was recognized. And I'm gay. It's just strange to me. I mean, I know this is like an organization has put this together, but the street's free and open to all. Like, you gotta pay to get in. And also, there's people who are like sleeping in the streets. I'm much more concerned about my neighbors and their families here and everywhere else in the world being safe, being alive, having a place, the safe place to sleep and food to eat. And it's real nice if you want to fly a flag for us or something, but I don't care about that the way that I care about people being okay. And I mean, I don't know, I don't mean to go on real long about it, but please do something and do more every day to help the people around us. That's what actually matters. And like, that's us. So that's all I have to say. please pass that ceasefire resolution. Thank you very much.
Mr. Harris, our next speaker, please.
Next is Ashley Navalis.
Good evening.
Hello, Council. My name is Ashley, and I'm a resident of Lancaster City. I'm here reiterating the importance of a ceasefire resolution introduced, thank you, and passed by this council. I am personally at a bit of a loss of how to continue to describe what is being done to the people in Gaza I'm seeing on my screen every day. I feel a bit at a loss finding new ways to make this violence relatable enough for people to care or important enough for people to act. But an image that I've been carrying around with me today is every single school district of Lancaster classroom empty. I'm sure all of you have been inside many of those classrooms. More than that number of children have been murdered in Gaza. The people of Gaza see us with our signs on the streets and sitting in our chairs. They write to us. They send messages when they can. And residents of Lancaster City have been speaking up, protesting in the streets, hosting children's events and fundraisers to bring family members to safety, traveling to bordering countries to hand out toys and supplies collected on our streets. So when we say it is far past time for City Council to pass a resolution, that is what we mean. Lancaster City is behind, but the people of Lancaster City have shown their solidarity for Palestine for months. And we will not stop. It would be an absolute shame for a representative body to not represent the demands of the people. I am certain history will not look kindly on Israel and the United States for its shameful colonial violence. My question for the council is how you want history to see the welcoming city of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Is that a moniker we used on marketing projects or for re-election campaigns, or was it something we endeavored to embody in word and deed with resolution? Did we sit and celebrate immigrants and queer people and Black liberation movements in one vote while leaving those same people to suffer in the next vote? When we were months into genocide, did we finally go on record to demand what is right, or did we shamefully sit by as those in power benefited from the status quo of violence and war? I leave the council with those questions, and I eagerly await your answer. Ceasefire now, free Palestine.
Mr. Harris, our next speaker.
Next is Irene Grievous.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Irene Grievous on the 400 block of West End Avenue. I'm here this evening pertaining to the critical repair program that was discussed at the last meeting. I'm still baffled how much is being given to property owners, specifically to why properties are condemned, and the critical repair program is not assisting property owners in getting their properties out of condemnation. At the last, or one of the for the reinvestment board, there were a number of properties that were blighted, yet none of the inspectors, Randy King, James Nixon, and Rebecca Geiser, who's on the board, provided any assistance or any information in helping these residents stay in their home. This critical repair program is supposed to be for all residents. If this is truly a certified welcoming city, it should not just be for the aristocrats and for influence and power. It seems like I don't know of anyone who received any funding for this critical repair program other than the allies and collaborators trying to take people's properties away. You know, this is supposed to be a certified welcoming city, yet there is so much division among the residents. And instead of trying to help residents stay in their home, or public servants are doing their best in efforts to take properties away, not keep their homes. It should not take 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 10 permits for each resident in obtaining a permit only for it to be denied. And I notice a consistency in each of these meetings that I've been to, the reinvestment boards. Each property owner has applied for a number of permits only for it to be denied. And I know, speaking for myself, I've applied for 10 permits only for each and every one of them to be denied. How is that a certified welcoming city? And why are people treated so much different than others? There is not an answer to that, is there? And specifically with the inspections, they move from one property onto another.
Ms. Williams, we've reached 3 minutes. Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Harris, the next speaker for this period, please.
Next is Morgan Thomas.
Good evening.
Hi there. Morgan Thomas. I am a resident of Manor Township. So I am here, City Council members, to amplify the request to introduce and pass a ceasefire resolution. Thank you, Councilman Ahmed, for your commitment to introduce this. As leaders in the Lancaster City community, it is imperative that you condemn the genocide that is ongoing in Gaza. By passing this resolution, we send a powerful message that our city stands for a world where we can live freely and in peace among our many differences. We demonstrate our commitment to standing with those who have been marginalized and oppressed, and we pave the way for a more inclusive and equitable society. Furthermore, passing this resolution not only demonstrates our commitment to the intentions of being a welcoming city, but also converts those intentions to actions. It shows that we are not merely paying lip service to the idea of being a welcoming city, but that we are actively taking steps to create a safer and more welcoming environment for all who call our city home. Actions speak louder than words, and by passing this resolution, we show our dedication to making our city a place where everyone feels valued, respected, and welcomed. If we claim to be a welcoming city, then we have the absolute responsibility to address and condemn the genocide of the Palestinian people. However, will we truly be a welcoming place for those refugees if we cannot condemn the blatant suffering inflicted upon them? Permanent ceasefire now, free Palestine. Thank you.
Mr. Harris, the next commenter for this period.
Next is Jonathan Duplatier.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Duplanche. I live in Creekside South Apartments on Passy Lane, and I'm an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And tonight I am here to demand a ceasefire in Gaza. Since its inception, the United States government has committed some of the biggest atrocities known to man. From the genocide of indigenous Americans, to the enslavement and later segregation of black folks, to the nuclear bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I used to read about these events and wonder how such crimes against humanity could have been committed, and how the people that committed them face virtually no consequences. Today, I wonder these things no more, because since October 2023, I have witnessed the biggest atrocities of my lifetime being committed, and the U.S. government is not only doing nothing to stop them from happening, but spending billions of our tax dollars to fund them. The history books will remember what is currently happening for what it really is, the genocide of the Palestinian people. Over the past 8 months, over 40,000 innocent people have been slaughtered at the hands of the Israeli government. If 40,000 casualties isn't enough to make you demand a ceasefire, then how many will? Day by day, Israel is escalating its genocide of the Palestinian people, and they will continue their onslaught unless we demand an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, our next speaker for this period.
Next is Sarah Bag.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Baget. I live on the 700 block of North Duke Street, and I'm commenting this evening in support of the Lancaster City ceasefire resolution. I'm here as a member of Mennonite Action. We're a movement of Mennonites across the U.S. and Canada taking public action to demand a ceasefire and an end to the U.S. and Western-funded occupation of Palestine. There are thousands of us across the country, 500 here in Lancaster, and about 200 Mennonite Action members who live here in the city. One of the most important values I learned from my Mennonite elders was hospitality, along the themes of recognition of immigrants and refugees. I grew up watching my elders open their homes to refugees, and that inspired me to do the same as an adult. Every family and individual I've hosted in my home has had a moment where they've told me their story of the kind of violence they faced and the people that they lost and what forced them to leave their home. These conversations have made me deeply committed to ending the kind of violence that forces people into that kind of displacement. When I talk to people about what Lancaster is like, I always lead with talking about our hospitality and who we are as a welcoming city. But it is not enough to just welcome people who have already been displaced. We must do what we can as a community to prevent these profound losses, and that means passing a ceasefire resolution. Thank you.
Mr. Harris, our next speaker for this period.
Next is Ron Harper Jr.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Ron Harper Jr. I am a Raffo Township resident, but I'm also a trustee of my mom's trust, 721st Street. I have come here today for my Facebook page that I've started, Justice for Ada. Ada is actually a composite of at least a half a dozen young ladies who were molested, raped by Scott Selby, a former city police officer. I have come because this police department is not in a position to be investigating this crime or the crimes that occurred 25 years ago. You've talked tonight about these various good causes that people would like you to get involved in. Well, folks, this is your purview. The city police, you're in charge of. So everything I'm saying tonight applies to you. So the first thing I want to talk about is the police didn't show a picture of what Scott Selby looked like in uniform 25 years ago while asking the public to identify this guy. Hey, do you know Scott Selby? Oh, we don't have a picture of him. Oh, we'll get you what he looks like today. What did he look like in uniform? Show us the pictures. Second of all, I know that city police cannot, Lancaster District Attorney cannot investigate this. Why? Because they're going to be investigating themselves. Now look, folks, official oppression is a Pennsylvania statute that says deprivation of civil rights under color of law is official oppression. Now, I don't know about you, But if one of my daughters was raped by a cop in uniform, I'd call that official oppression. What are we doing about this? We can't let city police investigate this, and why is that? Let's open up his personnel jacket. I spoke to the police chief before Memorial Day about the picture. Where's the picture at, Chief? They're hiding because they don't want the real story 25 years ago uncovered. That police chief went on to the district attorney's office, Mike Landis. Mike, what did you know and when did you know it? These questions need to be asked by the FBI or the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. And finally, what did the cops know 25 years ago?
I'm sorry, your 3 minutes has been expended. Thank you.
Please send this to the Attorney General's office. Don't let them investigate anymore.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Harris, our next speaker for this period.
Next is Carrie Weaver.
Good evening.
Hello, my name is Carrie Weaver. I live on the 100 block of Plum. I am a Lancaster City resident, a person of faith and spirituality, queer, and a registered nurse. First, I am here as one of the representatives from Mennonite Action. We are members of a historic peace church that calls us to be disciples of Christ by modeling the peace and compassion that he showed for the world. Our faith teaches us that we are all made in God's image, and every child of God deserves to live in safety and peace. I became involved with Mennonite Action a few months ago because I follow the values of peace, love, and social justice. I come from a multi-generational, long legacy of pacifists and conscientious objectors. Second, I'm speaking to you as a nurse with a master's degree who has worked in this community for over 9 years and have witnessed the depths of human suffering. I have worked in med-surg nursing and observation unit nursing at Lancaster General. I've worked as a labor and delivery nurse at Women and Babies Hospital. I've done clinical instruction and classroom teaching at Pennsylvania Colleges of Health Science, and I've also worked as a diabetes educator at Hershey Medical Center. These diverse experiences as a nurse has enriched my understanding of healthcare delivery systems and strengthened my commitment to protecting human rights. My heart shatters at the images that I have seen of amputations, stillborns, dead mutilated children, tortured bodies, and reports of healthcare atrocities like women having C-sections without anesthesia. The healthcare system in Gaza has completely collapsed, and healthcare professionals just like me have been systematically targeted and killed for providing healthcare to desperate Palestinians. We as Mennonite Action and as individuals have been tireless in our efforts of making calls, sending emails, and taking to the streets in protest. We are not asking that individuals on this council join us in what we've been doing for months. You can do that on your own, and you're welcome to join in with us. But we are demanding that this council acts as a governing body to do more than what we as individuals can. We demand policy action, and by passing this resolution, you would be making this community a much safer place. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, our next speaker for this period.
And last we have Susie Gomez.
Don't see Ms. Gomez in the room. I will call her at the second public comment period. If she is here at that time, she may speak. Did we have one more, or was that the final one?
That was the final one.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. We'll now move to our next item on the agenda, which is reports requested by council. I don't believe we have any this evening. Is that right, Mr. Harris?
We do not, Madam President.
Thank you. Next item is reports of committees of council. These are the meetings held on June 3rd, 2024. We begin with public safety. Councilor Diaz.
We did not meet this week.
Thank you very much. Public Works Committee, Councilor Hirsch.
Thank you, Council President. The Public Works Committee did meet on June 3rd, had 2 agenda items, both of which appear on our council agenda this evening and are related to one another. Resolutions 50 and 51 are authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Manheim Township, East Lampeter Township respectively. That concludes the report of the Public Works Committee.
Thank you very much. Economic Development Committee, Councilor Ahmed.
Thank you, Council President. The Economic Development Committee did not meet at the last meeting of council.
Thank you. Finance Committee, Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. The Finance Committee did meet during the last session. We discussed 6 different items. 3 items, Administration Resolution Number 46, 2024, Bill Number 6, 2024, and Resolution Number 47, 2024 will be discussed later this evening, later in the agenda, and we'll discuss that in more detail. The other 3 items, Administration Bill Number 8, 2024, and Administration Bill Number 9, 2024, were both regarding the refinancing of city debt, one with bonds and one with a bank note. Both of these are relating to the same items, except only one will ultimately be adopted. Both of these bills are addressing a lease agreement that is set to expire, as well as reimbursement for land acquisition costs, and the total of this debt refinancing would be $8.9 million. The other bill was Administration Bill Number 54, 2024. This is to appoint special counsel for that financing, and all 3 of these items will be introduced at the full council meeting on June 25th. That concludes my report, Council President.
Thank you. Community Planning Committee, Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Community Planning did meet. We had 4 items on the agenda. Resolution Number 48, Resolution 49, Resolution 52, and Bill Number 7, all of which will come up on our legislative agenda.
Thank you very much. And Personnel Committee, Councilor Cleese.
Thank you, Madam President. Personnel Committee did meet on Monday, June 3rd, and review 1 nomination to the Shade Tree Commission. That concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you very much. We'll now move into our legislative agenda for this evening. Our first item is nominations for appointment. I will turn it back to Councilor Cleese.
Yeah, as I've just said, the nomination of Ms. Shapiro was reviewed by Council on June 3rd in our last committee meeting. And she has served on the board for over 13 years, and she has expressed interest in serving for another 5-year term. And she is supported by all the members of the Shade Tree Commission and by the Public Works Department. And there are no other candidates interested in filling this role. So I'll make a motion to reappoint Ms. Shapiro to the Shade Tree Commission for a term from December 31st, 2023 to December 31st, 2028.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the personnel appointment. Are there any council comments? Comments from the public on the appointment? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Ahmed.
Aye.
Mr. Royer.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
And President Bega.
Aye. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is historic district items. Councilor Craig, this is through community planning. Do you wish to take these together?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Harris.
Considering the following applications and recommendations from the Historical Architectural Review Board for improvements to a property within the Historic District, F28 Vine LLC, owner of 2080 Vine Street, requests installation of new commercial signage, and YWCA Lancaster, owner of 110 North Lime Street, requests alterations, reconstruction, and new construction on the East Orange and North Lime Street elevations. And both of those applications were recommended for approval by the Historical Architectural Review Board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on both of those items. Are there any representatives from the applicants here for either of those? I know they were recommended for approval. If you would just come forward, please. Good evening. Are you here for Vine Street?
No, I'm here for the
I
YWCA.
had a 50-50 shot.
You did.
If you could just introduce yourself and just briefly tell us about the project.
Sure.
Super overview would be fine. Thank you.
Sure. My name is Dana Clark. I'm a partner at Tippett's Weaver Architects. We've been hired by the YWCA to pay homage to their historic building. They have an ever-changing program and ever-changing needs, and what we're trying to do is combine that program and be respectful to the historic property. So that was the sort of the task I was given from the 10,000-foot perspective. Nancy O'Halloran is here as well. She represents the Y, so if there's specific program requests, questions, she certainly can address those. We're super excited for the project. I think the biggest thing that citizens will recognize is the stair tower on Lime Street is going to go away, and that facade will be restored back to what was originally meant to be designed for that space. So everyone's really excited about that. But more exciting than that is the program and the new services that the Y is able to offer because of these aesthetic pieces are nice, but the program is really the key.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I'll
Thank
just
you.
remind members of council, in the overall project for the YWCA, we were did award them ARPA housing dollars for that part of their project. Any additional comments from council on the historical district items? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Moon? Aye. Mr. Roy?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch?
Aye.
And President Biggie?
Aye. Next item on the agenda is ordinances for first reading. We begin, I'm going to remind myself, these are not coming to vote this evening, just for first read. We begin with Administration Bill Number 6, 2024. Mr. Harris.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, amending the Code of the City of Lancaster, Section 64.2 and 64.20, both entitled Definitions. The Code of the City of Lancaster, Section 64.7 and 64.27, both entitled Service Increments, and the Code of the City of Lancaster, Section 64.23, entitled Active Firefighter Contributions, Group Life Insurance, to modify the service increments under the Policeman's Relief Fund and the Firefighters Relief Fund so as to assure that the ordinances of the City of Lancaster are consistent with the collective bargaining agreements by and between the City of Lancaster and the City Police Officer Association and the Lancaster City Professional Firefighters Association, 319, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect in accordance with Pennsylvania law.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. It's a very long title. This is coming through the Finance Committee. Councilor Royo.
Thank you, Council President. I'll do my best to summarize that. This bill is to correct inconsistencies between the pension ordinance and the city's collective bargaining agreements. The inconsistencies are a result of changes in the agreements over the years, and these updates have been presented to the unions, and there were no additional edits or changes for this bill.
Thank you very much. Are there any council comments on the bill this time? From the public? Hearing none, again, this is the first read for this, and it will come up at our meeting on the 25th for vote. Is that correct? Perfect. Thank you very much. Next item for first read is Administration Bill Number 7, 2024. Mr. Harris.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster approving an intermunicipal agreement by and between Manheim Township and the City of Lancaster to adopt and approve the Lancaster Train Station Small Area Plan as the official plan to be used to guide development around the Lancaster Amtrak station, including but not limited to considering necessary amendments to the respective zoning ordinances to be consistent with the plan, encouraging planning staff of the township and the city to collaborate and coordinate on development projects in the area around the Lancaster Amtrak station, and to promote and support the development of this area in a manner that is consistent with the plan, and authorizing the appropriate officials of the city to enter into and perform tasks associated with the intermunicipal agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Also a lengthy title on that one. Councilor Hirsch, this is coming through. Is it? Am I correct? Apologize. Councilor Craig, this is coming through community planning.
Thank you, Council President. This was presented by Director Delph. This bill authorizes the city officials to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with Manheim Township to adopt the train station small area plan, which was completed last August. Adoption was delayed while the city completed the comprehensive plan as the two plans work together.
Director Delps, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Nice to see you. Thank you, Councilor Craig, for the introduction. As you noted, we spoke about this topic last committee meeting on June 3rd. Just a couple updates from a process standpoint. As you noted, this first reading of the bill is to authorize the intermunicipal agreement between the city and Manheim Township. After the meeting on June 3rd, there was also a Planning Commission meeting held that following Wednesday on June 5th. There was a presentation made to the Planning Commission at that time with more details about the substance of the plan. As I noted at our last meeting, we were going to invite county planning staff to come and present on the small area plan for the train station. Mr. Mike Doman is here to provide that presentation. As a reminder, the county was the lead agency for the small area plan, but it was a close partnership between all three entities, Manheim Township, the city, and the county. And in fact, Lancaster City Alliance was an important partner as well in that endeavor. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Doman.
Thank you very much.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you and good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to council this evening. I do have a very busy agenda, so we will try to get through this as quickly as possible. My name is Mike Doman. I'm a principal planner with the Lancaster County Planning Department. I was the project manager for the Lancaster Station Small Area Plan. I'm joined this evening by two of my colleagues. We have John Hershey, who is the Director of Analytics and Design for the Planning Department, and we have Christine Lee, who is a Senior Planner and also the Community Liaison to the Lancaster Metro Region, which includes the City of Lancaster itself. We also have two stakeholder representatives here this evening. We have Anthony Vallone, who is the Community Development Manager for Manheim Township, and we also have Jeremy Young, who is the Director of Community and Economic Development for the Lancaster City Alliance. We got started on this project back in 2021 when we were contacted, that's the Lancaster County Planning Department, by the Lancaster City Alliance with a concern about potential land use changes in and around the Lancaster train station itself. They asked if the County Planning Commission would engage in a multi-municipal planning effort for the area to coordinate development. We thought it was a terrific idea. We reached out to PennDOT to see if they would fund this effort. They agreed to, and we formed an advisory committee from that, including county planning staff, city planning staff, Manheim Township staff, PennDOT, Amtrak, the Lancaster City Alliance, EDC, and the South Central Transit Authority. Our first meeting was held in November of 2021. The first public open house was February 2022, and the final meeting was held in March of 2023. The plan was completed in May of 2023. Just some quick orientation. The train station is identified on this map as a green star. It is the location is on the north end of the city, the southern end of Manheim Township. The black line on the outside of this area is a 10-minute walk shed, which was our secondary boundary. The primary study area is in yellow. It's kind of faint, but you can see it there. That is a quarter-mile radius around the train station itself. Because this area is at a location where there is a convergence between the City of Lancaster and Manheim Township and annexations that occurred decades ago, there is a really fragmented municipal boundary system in this area. Because of that fragmentation, it makes it very, very challenging to plan holistically for the area and to also develop the area efficiently and effectively. Every municipality in Lancaster County, all 60 municipalities, including these two, have differing zoning regulations, subdivision and land development regulations, stormwater management regulations, design guidelines. They're all different, and it's no different in this area. So it's a real cumbersome issue and a challenging issue that we try to address through this planning process. By all measures, the Lancaster train station is a successful venture. The Lancaster train station is the second busiest station in all of Pennsylvania. It is the 21st busiest station in the nation. But we think we can do better. As we started this process, Amtrak told us right away from the outset that the vast majority of the passenger rail service folks using their trains arrive by automobile and search for parking. That's being somewhat addressed by PennDOT constructing a 250-space surface parking lot on the north side of the railroad tracks. But imagine, if you will, all those empty spaces around a train station filled with compact, mixed-use residential and commercial development. And imagine us being able to change the design of that area to make it more comfortable and safer for people to walk and ride their bike to the train station. All those people living close by, walking and riding their bike to the train station instead of driving and trying to find parking. That's what we're trying to accomplish with this project. As for the document itself, we looked at existing conditions, which included zoning, land use. We did a market study. We looked at previous and related plans, such as the Gateway Plan that was done for this area in 2007. We looked at comprehensive plans. We had public engagement, 2 public meetings for this. We interviewed over 80 people during this process. We developed a vision for the area. And we also conducted a design charrette, which led to a site design concept, which we'll speak to in a few minutes. We developed recommendations and an implementation strategy. We're really proud of this vision for the plan because it really thinks it encapsulates the idea and concepts of placemaking that we installed in this document itself. And I'll read it very quickly. The Lancaster train station area will be a cohesive and well-designed urban gateway neighborhood, safely connecting all transportation modes and attractive to a diverse mix of residents, housing, and businesses that are compatible with and supportive of increased transit ridership. And to express this vision, we completed a site design concept, which I'm going to have John Hershey approach and discuss.
It's great to be with you all. Thank you for the opportunity. This sketch will look very familiar to members of the public and members of council who were at that March open house of March of 2023 open house when the sketch was prepared and presented. It's based, the consultant for the county prepared this graphic based on a hand-drawn sketch that I put together 4 months prior to that. And basically, we'll start on the north side of the railway, the top of this graphic, and then work our way south. North of the rail line, there are 2 reconfigured street intersections The first being in this location where Marshall Avenue, Lidditz Pike, and Keller Avenue intersect, a realignment to create a safer intersection there, and then a reconfiguration of the very squiggly Keller Avenue in this location as it approaches Fruitville Pike and Manheim Pike in this area. There are 3 proposed streets, one which parallels Keller Avenue here, and 2 that come off of Keller Avenue and provide access to that parallel street. 16 new structures shown in the solid pink color are proposed. They would be either 4 or 5 stories in height, with ground floor for non-residential uses and then upper stories for residential uses, helping to address the housing challenge that we have in Lancaster County. Those buildings have intentionally been arranged to define a streetscape along Keller Avenue, along the internal street, to create very walkable connections to the train station and to other neighborhood amenities. There are a few buildings that are shown in this hatched area. They would be longer-term construction. We hope that someday PennDOT will permit the redevelopment of their surface parking lot to include a parking structure and 2 liner buildings that face it, so that we can create a streetscape that is more indicative of Lancaster City than some suburban location. And in addition, longer-term redevelopment of the northeast quadrant of Marshall and Lidditz Pike is also proposed in that same hatching. Parking is intentionally located to the rear of these proposed structures, and there's also on-street parking proposed, so that again the streetscape is indicative of what you see throughout Lancaster City. In addition, there's one parking structure located here along the just north of the railway. Open space was a very important consideration in creating the framework for this section of redevelopment. Beginning at that realigned intersection of Lidditz Pike and Marshall and Keller Avenue, there's a strong diagonal, non-motorized connection, bringing pedestrians and cyclists into a forecourt in front of the north entrance to the train station structure. A walkable streetscape and additional open space proposed here at the edges of as one approaches the overpass from Fruitville Pike. Jumping to the south side, similar initiatives were proposed here, although we have just one reconfigured intersection as McGovern Avenue flows into Lincoln Avenue. We again proposed structures in this solid color, as well as some potentially longer-term structures here and here on Amtrak's 2 surface parking lots, where we feel ultimately those areas really do need to have some architecture to define a streetscape. Parking is again located behind these structures. There's on-street parking, and then one parking structure proposed here between Queen Street and North Christian Street. Again, the proposed structures in pink are all 4 or 5 stories in height, with a non-residential use on the ground floor, and then 3 or 4 floors of residential uses above them. The exception to that are these sort of greenish structures that are in this location off of Manheim Avenue, and these 2 structures down here off of Lidditz Avenue. Because of the existing neighborhood context of 2-story town row houses, these structures would also be 2 stories to sort of fit the context of the residential neighborhood. Open space is again a key component, in addition to the Silent Symphony sculpture area and the current forecourt in front of the train station. Additional open space is proposed within this residential area here to provide an amenity for the residents in that location. It's a little difficult to see all that from this plan view, so let's go to some of the perspective drawings, Mike, if you would, that were prepared by the consultant. This upper left is looking toward the train station, the north side here, that new overpass over the tracks, the proposed forecourt, and then that strong diagonal non-motorized connection out to the intersection of Lidditz Pike and Keller Avenue here. These other views are a slight variation on that same view. In this case, that north train station access is located here in this sketch. It's located over here on this sketch, and this is again looking in from that Keller Avenue, Lidditz Pike intersection. Let's go to the next one, please. And then a few perspective sketches prepared by the consultant for the area south of the train station. You'll recognize the facade of the train station here, the forecourt here, proposed buildings to better define the south side of McGovern Avenue in this location, and then a few other variations on that the same area. Next slide, please. This is a sketch. All the areas that are masked out are really not proposed for redevelopment. For example, the existing train station structure is right at here. This is McGovern Avenue. This is realigned Keller Avenue. This study was done to basically show how parking could be addressed and also to calculate the amount of square footage that would be served by that parking. Basically, if we build these structures, in this case in this darker brown color, to the 5-story height, we can accommodate nearly 1,000 proposed residential units. At 4 stories, we can accommodate just under 800 residential units. And then on the ground floor, approximately 256,000 square feet of non-residential space for offices, commercial, and businesses that could support our guests who arrive at the train station coming to the north side here, as well as folks who are commuting and just need to pick up something on the way home from their commute. I based the sketch, the parking building ratio, on a sketch that I had done a year earlier in 2021 for the former Stockyard Inn site, where I was working with a developer who had a real commercial client and needed to provide, I think it was one space per residential unit within that relatively confined site. And I basically used that same balance as I was laying out the remainder of the sketch area. And I think Mike's going to bring this home with a few next steps.
So where do we go from here? We're hoping that both municipalities agree to adopt the intermunicipal agreement. After that occurs, we're going to form an implementation committee with 3 small focus areas. One will be outreach and engagement. The second will be land use and design. And the third will be the MPO transportation improvements. That's all I have, unless the stakeholders for the project wanted to say anything tonight. Jeremy, Anthony?
Thank you for the invitation, Mike. Madam President, Madam Mayor, councilors, Jeremy Young, 300 block of Pearl Street, here today in my capacity as Director of Community and Economic Development at Lancaster City Alliance. Lancaster City Alliance has been a proud partner on this planning initiative with the city, with Manheim Township, and with the County Planning Department, among the other stakeholders. We strongly encourage your adoption of this plan. Just for some historical context, this is actually the 3rd plan for this particular area of Lancaster County that straddles the city and Manheim Township since 2007. The real difference between now and 2007 is, for the first time, we have all indications seem to suggest that we have, or we will have, political support on both sides of the tracks, so to speak. So on the Manheim Township side, really, in order to move this plan forward, unlike the other 2 before it, which haven't really gone anywhere, unfortunately, it seems that we'll have the support of the Manheim Township supervisors. This plan also aligns directly with the new comprehensive plan for the city of Lancaster, of course, our future Lancaster, which this body adopted in October. Similarly, this plan aligns directly with the economic development strategic plan for the city of Lancaster, which this body adopted in 2015, and which Lancaster City Alliance and the city continue to partner to advance forward, and which we aim to recalibrate or update this year and finalize that process this year. Related to building on strength, this plan, as you heard from Mike, will advance goals for new housing units. I think it was up to 1,000 or so units, which are desperately needed here in the city and county, as well as new opportunities for retail and restaurant space and providing employment for hopefully city workers as well as Manheim Township workers. Most importantly, and what really gets me excited about this plan is that it encourages the type of dense mixed-use development that will support a vibrant new neighborhood of sorts that straddles the line between the city and Manheim Township at this key gateway into our community from the north. So again, we encourage your adoption of this plan. Before this plan can go anywhere, the city council must adopt it, as well as the Manheim Township Board of Supervisors. And time is really of the essence, frankly, because in order for the plan to move forward from there, zoning ordinances need to be updated on both sides to ensure that we have unified zoning to enable the kind of development that this plan calls for. So thank you for the opportunity to make some comments, and again, we encourage your adoption of this plan.
Thank you, and we'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you. I just want to kind of start us off, and maybe Director Delps or anybody can field this question. The question before us, actually, the question that's in first reading before us this evening is authorizing an intermunicipal agreement. Can you speak a little bit about how that agreement leads to this plan and about the concepts that were shown versus how we get to a final, the final stages of all of those things? Because I think that this area is ripe for development. It makes a lot of sense, but I think that there'll be a lot of questions about how we get to something that may look like those designs, and if those designs exist right now. So help us orient us.
Yes, all good questions. Thank you. I'll start with the process related to the intermunicipal agreement. As you stated, this is the first reading for the agreement. The agreement we need to put in place first as the foundation before we can formally adopt the plans. As Jeremy pointed out, this is really a golden opportunity for us to move together in sync with Manheim Township. We've been in close coordination with them. As I noted at the last meeting, there's an action for the intermunicipal agreement itself, which is before us tonight. The Planning Commission is also going to be providing a recommendation for the adoption of the plan, which will be a separate resolution, but they're tied together. So we've been intending that they proceed that way before you. In terms of implementation, well, actually, maybe just to take a step back, I wanted to say a few words about when I first moved to this area. The Lancaster train station, for me, stood out immediately as an incredible opportunity for the city and for the county as a whole. For all of those planners who have gone to planning school, who have worked in the field, this opportunity for transit-oriented development is absolutely massive. I think one of the major challenges that we have here has to do with alignment across the two jurisdictions, and that has to do with some of the things that Mr. Doman mentioned earlier, aligning zoning, the zoning ordinances, aligning things like streetscape and design standards, making sure that we're thinking about stormwater management in an integrated and holistic fashion. So there are some real technical challenges there, along with making sure that we're taking the right legislative actions as well. The other piece that I think we need to be frank about too is this is not a single piece of property with one property owner that we're redeveloping. This is an area with multiple property owners, lots of different types of property, size property. So the challenge before us is not particularly easy, but as I said a little while ago, it is absolutely imperative that we have the foundation, that we have a planning instrument that provides that roadmap for us, so we know which legislative actions we need to take next. So I'm happy to break that down a little bit further if helpful, but I hope that backdrop is helpful.
Yes, thank you. Additional questions from council? Councilor Ahmed.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Director Delps, and to the presenters. My question was just regarding what would be the next steps for the zoning needed to reach this plan?
That question has two sides, I believe, because there's a question for the city and a question for Manheim Township. Mr. Anthony Vallone may want to say a few words about what's happening on the Manheim Township side. I can say that much of the zoning that we have in place currently around the train station does allow for some of this vision to come to fruition. That said, I think there are also very important opportunities pointed out both in the small area plan and in the comprehensive plan where we could make additional and should make additional zoning changes to that area. That is part of our larger zoning update that we know needs to happen in order to implement the comprehensive plan. Mr. Douglas Smith and I need to come back before council in the relatively near future to talk more about how this zoning update will roll out. This is a very, very large effort, so I expect that it would happen in phases. I don't think we're going to do the rewrite of the zoning code all at once. At least that's what we've talked about internally within the department and with Mayor Sirachi. One of the things that is driving how the phases occur will be where we have anticipated land use change, where there's development opportunity, where we have approved small area plans, for example. Essentially, where we've done that groundwork already, we want to start with the zoning amendments there.
Thank you. And I know that there's multifacets to the plan and different developers, but is there an estimated amount of how many additional housing units this could bring to the city of Lancaster?
Are we still on? Yeah. I don't have a breakdown specifically to the city of Lancaster versus Manheim Township, but overall, if we build the 5-story structures, ground floor, non-residential, and 4 stories of residential above, it comes in at just under 1,000 proposed units in both municipalities.
Thank you. And that concludes my questions, Council President.
Thank you. Questions from council. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. And in having those potential housing units, is there going to be room for some affordable housing in there?
Best practice for transit-oriented development is that we would be incorporating some low to moderate income housing within that small area plan boundary. You may recall that the City Council decided to approve funding for the Stockyard Inn project, which is within the small area plan. So the vision there was actually to start that process by using public funds to help ensure that there would be affordable units at the Stockyard Inn. And unfortunately, as you know, that funding, the developer had to return that funding because they've been stuck in litigation and they have not been able to use that funding within the time limits of the ARPA funding. But that model is instructive. That's where we have opportunity to do that kind of thing within the train station small area plan. We should be proactive as an administration and a council as looking for opportunities to invest our public affordable housing funding to integrate some units into mixed-use projects.
Great. And then I have the same question for the Manheim Township side.
And while Anthony's approaching the podium, I would add that our idea and concept of trying to develop compact, high-density, mixed-use residential commercial here at least offers the opportunity for affordable housing. Much of what we've seen in Lancaster County recently, density-wise, has been fairly low density. It's not affordable to most people. So this allows at least the opportunity to explore that.
Good evening. Just make sure you have that green.
I discovered that. I knew you guys were going to do this to me. Good evening, Madam President, Mayor, and Council. I'm Anthony Vallone. I'm the new Community Development Manager for Manheim Township, and I'm new here, so I'm really excited to be here. One of the things that attracted me to coming to this place was your train station and the opportunities that surround it. And that was one of my main missions when I was hired. And to answer your question, Councilor Craig, The affordable housing component, we really haven't gotten to that place yet. We're undergoing a lot of change in Manheim Township. We're trying to catch up with a lot of the different things that are changing around us. One of those things that we needed to do was to move very quickly before the market moved for us, and to start looking at our zoning. We've already gone to our commissioners, and we've asked them to change our zoning, and we've done it. We loosened up our zoning to get rid of the 50-foot setbacks in some of those areas around the train station. Some of the things that make it feel so suburban, we've kind of made it more urban and to try to match what the city was doing. And this was even before we even contemplated adopting the rail station plan. As a matter of fact, it was one of your folks, I think it was Douglas Smith, who suggested, well, aren't you guys going to adopt? And I thought, oh, wow, okay, I didn't know we had to adopt it. I know the plan was out there, and at this point I was only here for a few months. So we're kind of trying to catch up with the times and move as quickly as we can. An affordable housing component part of it would, on the Manheim Township side of it, would take a lot of discussion. We aren't the city. We don't have a formalized program. But I can assure you that encouraging 1,000 units would certainly do a lot to help our housing crisis. And we certainly do have a housing crunch, and everybody is feeling it throughout the region. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. And your point is well taken that the type of housing that is proposed does lend itself more to that. I think it's unique because we've heard municipalities all around the county have actually been banning this type of development. So I think that's what makes this proposed plan unique, because we are encouraging it. So.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, our goal for density in the Lancaster metro region, of course, including the city itself, is 9 units per acre. We are only about 4.7 units right now per acre density-wise, so that doesn't lend itself to provide for affordable housing. We need more compact, high-density residential development in our community. And just one other thing, I wanted to echo what Chris and Anthony said. We are so fortunate in Lancaster County. I don't think we realize it sometimes, to have our train station. There are 20 other metro areas in the United States that have larger populations than Lancaster's that don't have passenger rail service. So we are very fortunate to have that.
Thank you.
If I may just add to that, in this month alone, there are more than 200 acres within the county's urban growth areas that are being squandered for low-density, single-family development and paved areas to store recreational vehicles in several municipalities that surround the city. This is just at the other end of the spectrum. It's doing the right thing to create new neighborhoods that are dense, have access to transit, and hopefully can be affordable.
Councilor Diaz and then Mayor Sarachi.
In regards to the train schedules, and I'm not, they're constantly changing the times, and your alley residents, what is the noise component to everything? Like, are there going to be complaints regarding how loud the train is? I'm sure it's going to rattle probably a few places inside their home. And I'm only saying that because I lived in New York as a child, and I remember the train going by. So I just wanted to know what type of, benchmarks or any kind of study that you guys may have had.
We're not at the stage of doing specific noise studies. However, parking is a use that has been specifically located closest to the rail line, so that those parking structures serve as sound buffers. The proposed residential units that are shown in the pink colors here are sited a bit farther away from the rail line itself.
Thank you.
Mayor Sarachi.
Just a quick question for Anthony. Thank you for being here. When is this on the agenda for the Manheim Township Commissioners to take up?
I believe it was the end of July.
The end of July, so we're going first. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from council down here? Councilor Pleased.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. Thank you, Director Delph. And I think my question is for Director Delph. What roles and responsibilities will city staff, contractors, or the stakeholders will have in the process?
Very good question. And there are probably a lot of answers to that question because it takes a village to implement a plan like this. I will say the central role for city staff is within the Planning Bureau, and that is to make changes to the zoning code and or the subdivision and land development ordinance in order to help execute this plan. I would also say that anytime there's a development proposal on one of these parcels, this plan should be guiding the vision of that development, and then ultimately city staff is reviewing that proposed development within that context.
And what are the timelines for the execution of the plan?
That depends a lot on the private market, and when we have investment and private developers who wish to move forward. One of the important parts about a small area plan is to help catalyze that investment. Small area plans can have as long as a 20-year timeline. Some of these development parcels will not be developed for a long time. Others we hope will in the next couple of years. Any other questions related to that? I could probably go on further, but I stopped myself. Would leave it there.
Next question is, what will happen if one of the parties doesn't follow through the plan or doesn't comply with the agreement? What will happen there?
Well, the agreement here is for both municipalities to adopt the plan. The plan is a guide and a roadmap. So that is it is really the foundational step to move forward with the other implementation that is necessary. So, for example, Councilor Diaz asked a very good question in the committee meeting about infrastructure investments related to this particular area. In order for us to add projects within this area for transportation investments through the Metropolitan Planning Organization, we have more weight accorded to anything in this area if we adopt a small area plan. So there are some very important practical realities related to infrastructure investment in addition to the private developments that may be proposed.
And who will be monitoring the execution of the plan?
The city as a whole, the city's administration, the city council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional council comments before I number?
Just a brief comment.
Hirsch?
I just want to commend all of you. I think this is a great plan because, as was mentioned, we are in a housing crisis. And the one element that I want to kind of pull attention to is the fact that the bottom 20% of income earners in this country, on average, spend over 30% of their income on transportation, which is, we say if you spend more than 30% of your income on housing, that you're housing burdened. And so I would just add that building 1,000 housing units not only will add desperately needed housing supply, by building them by transit, you might have more households and families saying, hey, maybe instead of 2 cars, we only need 1, and you can take the train to work, or you can take the bus to work, you can walk to work. Like, this is a huge piece of making things more affordable for folks here in our community. So plans to be commended, and I hope it comes to fruition.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilor Hirsch. There's actually some terrific research in the planning field. We talk so much about housing burden as 30% of gross income. There's a lot of research that actually looks at housing plus transportation costs to understand affordability, and you make a really, really good point. Thank you.
This is a first read, so I will take any public comments on the bill to adopt the municipal agreement. Thank you. I'll just remind everyone that public comments would begin with your name, block of residence, and our 3 minutes. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you. Kieran Bauman, New Holland, Pennsylvania. As you can tell, I came to speak on a different issue, but this was just very exciting for me, so I wanted to come and say some words. It's very encouraging to hear that this is the direction that the city is moving, and that, you know, other cities are making more and more space for single-family properties, and this sort of development that is just very burdensome, and it's just moving in the wrong direction with where things need to go. So it's exciting that we're looking at making more transit-oriented mixed-use developments be more where they need to be, right? In Lancaster, one of the coolest things about the city is that there is a train, and you can take it from Philly right into Lancaster. Unfortunately, one of the difficult parts about that is that the second you step out of the train station, what are you greeted with is a giant parking lot and busy roads. So that experience of being able to walk into mixed-use developments where you can go to restaurants or shops or whatever, that's much more welcoming in the welcoming city of Lancaster. I spent 6 months living in Tokyo, where obviously they have lots of mixed-use development, and it's one of the most amazing things to just be able to step out of the train station and the parking lot is underground, so you don't have to see it. The station that I live near had a bike parking lot that was underground that held like thousands of bicycles. It was amazing. So being able to have something like this in Lancaster, I feel would be very beneficial. And to talk on the housing issue as well, yes, adding 1,000 units will be beneficial, but unfortunately, everything that's built in this country is driven by one motive. It's the same motive, it's always profit. So if these units are to be built, they're going to be likely built by private developers who are interested in seeing a return on their investment. And so if that return can only be achieved through building luxury condos, as it's determined later through budget cuts or some other issue, well then we're still going to be seeing people sitting out on the streets, people without homes who desperately need them, especially people who, like these people who live on the streets, probably don't have a car. So if they can live in a neighborhood where they don't need a car, where they can take the train to go to work or something similar, this would be very beneficial for them. But unfortunately, I feel that that's a very unlikely scenario, as the developers are going to want a return on their investment, which means they're going to want to have increased rents on this housing. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Andy Chen. I've lived in the county for 20 years. Over the past 2 years, I've been trying to move to the city, but despite the fact that I was making $60K a year, I could not afford it. So what is being done to cap the rent so that people making less than me, because $60K is what, median, average? If an average earner with no kids, no household to support can't afford it, how are families affording it? Thank you.
Thank you. You make an excellent point, and I will just remind everyone that it's continually frustrating that Pennsylvania allows for no rent control or stabilization in the entire state. So, thank you. Any additional comments on the bill to adopt the intermunicipal agreement? Hearing none, we will take this up at our next meeting on the 25th. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Give you a moment to get disconnected before we move on. We're moving into the next part of our agenda this evening, that's resolutions. We begin with resolution number 46, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the proper officials of the city to execute a government obligation contract and all related documents for the acquisition of a new fire engine.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes the purchase of a new fire suppression engine. The new engine is going to replace one that was purchased back in 1999. This replacement is under a 15-year equipment replacement plan adopted in 2019, and the purchase was included in our current city budget. I believe Chief Hutchison is here as well. If there's anything that you would like to add, Chief.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. I have nothing else to add unless there's questions from the councilors or from the public that I could answer.
Thank you for being here for that. Are there any additional comments from council? From the public? Hearing none. Mr. Harris?
Mr. Meadows?
Aye.
Mr. Roy?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Cribb?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch?
Aye.
And President Baker?
Aye. Thank you.
Again, thank you for your support with the Fire Bureau.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Our next item is resolution number 47, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster to sell to the highest bidder after due notice of advertisement for bids, the property known as 8043 Fremont Street, City of Lancaster, PA, and directing the proper officials of the City of Lancaster to take any and all actions necessary to consummate the sale of the property.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second on the resolution. Councilor Councilor Arroyo. This is also through finance.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution is coming before council due to a lack of responses, an initial request for expressed interest, and the City of Lancaster is pursuing a different approach to seek bids for the redevelopment of this property. Director Delphs is here. If there's anything that you would like to add to this resolution.
Hello again, everyone. I know we spoke about this in some detail at the June 3rd meeting. I don't have much more to add. As a reminder, the resolution is to authorize taking the action of putting this property at 843 Fremont Street out to bid. We talked last time about the underlying land use of the property being current R3 zoning. We did receive some questions about expected development of that particular site. I did note that we're open to proposals, different types of proposals, but I do expect that it will likely be driven by a residential use to be in line with the current design and architecture of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Director Delphs, just to make sure my notes are correct, this is zoned R3 currently,
It is currently zoned R3, yes, correct.
which is residential.
Yes.
Okay, so if,
Moderate density residential.
perfect. So if there was a buyer that wanted to change that, would the condition of sale, would there be a condition of the sale that the zoning is changed before they purchase it? Would that be something that would be possible? Or would we be
We have not written the specific qualifications yet for the RFP. I'm working with our contract office within Office of Solicitor. In any case, whether it was a sale or not, if there was a proposal for rezoning of the property, they would have to, the owner would have to bring forth that request to City Council.
They'd have to own it first before they could make that request?
We haven't determined that yet, but that's typically the way it would work, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments from council?
If I may, Council President.
Councilor Arroyo.
Can you speak a little bit to the timeline, Director Delphs, around when you plan to issue the RFP, and then when do we expect proposals to come in? Sure. I'll ask the mayor for some help with this as well. I know that
Barry, our solicitor, and his team have already started drafting the early pieces to the request for bids. I still think they have some work to do on it. I don't have an exact timeline right at the moment, but it's possible that Mayor may have talked with Barry in the last week or two.
I think we were waiting on this resolution passing. I have a meeting with Barry later this week. This is on our agenda to discuss in terms of what the timeline is for moving forward. We'll continue to update council as it relates to the RFP and the number of responses. And ultimately, obviously, as a public sale, there'll be a continued conversation. So we'll keep you posted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Dawson.
Sure, thank you.
Additional questions or comments from council? Councilor Ahmed? Oh, just checking. Comments from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Ahmed?
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch?
Aye.
President Beke?
Aye. That takes us to resolution number 48, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the mayor to submit the 2024 Annual Action Plan, Year 4 of the city's 2021 to 2025 five-year consolidated plan, to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The submission includes the projected use of funds for the Community Development Block Grant Program during the 2024 program year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. This was presented by Community Planning and Economic Development Deputy Director Rebecca Geiser and Community Development Administrator Ms. Gowan. And they presented us with an overview of the 2024 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan, which included information on the CDBG program and the benefits of the community received from the program spending in 2023. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development will award the city $451,253 for 2024, a 5% reduction from the current year since 2020. The city has seen a reduction of $232,000 in CDB tongue twister funding. I don't have much to add to that, and if there's questions, I guess Ms. Rebecca Geiser could answer them for us.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. Good evening, Ms. Geiser. Thank you for being here.
Good evening.
Do you have anything to add before we take council comments?
Just wanted to highlight for you that although this allocation again represents a 5% cut in funding, we have designed the 2024 program to maintain our existing program goals and programs spelled out in the five-year consolidated plan. And also wanted to highlight that our community engagement for the comprehensive plan over the past 2 years has reinforced our understanding of the community priorities that are supported by the CDBG dollars. And in specific, we're very glad to be investing the CDBG dollars into community identified priorities and specifically designating more than half of the funding to promote quality and affordable housing. You all asked some good questions at the last meeting about how we measure program impact and success, and I hope that you received the email from Bryn about with the copy of the annual progress report or the CAPR that we submitted to HUD earlier this year. If the resolution passes, the final annual action plan will be submitted on July the 3rd. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. There was also a public engagement meeting. Has that happened already, or is that to happen after today?
Yes, great question. We presented at council last Monday, and then we held a public meeting last Thursday, June 6th, and we will be holding an additional public meeting in conjunction with the Lancaster County Housing and Redevelopment Authority, they are also submitting their annual action plan for their CDBG funds, and that meeting will be held on June 18th.
Great, thank you very much. Additional comments from members of council?
Council President.
Councilor Roy.
And just to mention, as I did during the committee meeting, I'll be abstaining from this vote since assets is mentioned in the plan and they are my employer.
Thank you for that. Additional comments from council? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Meadow.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Abstain.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Bacon.
Aye. Thank you. That takes us down to resolution number 49, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the adoption of an amendment to the Act 537 Official Sewage Facilities Plan for the City of Lancaster.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion, several, and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution is addressing amending the sewer facilities plan to include Otterbein United Methodist Church Shelter Project. This is for a routine sewer plan approval for the planned 8-bed low-barrier homeless shelter at Otterbein Church on East Clay Street. The shelter will require additional sewage capacity. The city engineers have reviewed this and determined the city sewage system has the capacity to accommodate the project.
Thank you very much, Councilor Craig. Looking at my notes from the committee meeting, and I would also note, because it's important, that some of the additional capacity that's needed for this project is due to additional staff and beds that will be in the facility. It'll also be due to new bathrooms that are being installed and fire suppression systems that need to be installed so that people have a safe place to stay. Engineers have reviewed and have affirmed that we do have capacity. Are there additional council comments to the resolution on the sewage facilities plan? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Meadow.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Bacon.
Aye. That takes us to resolution number 50, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lancaster approving an intermunicipal agreement for cost sharing of Bike at Lancaster Bike Share Project by and between Manheim Township and the City of Lancaster, which documents the parties' respective responsibilities with respect to Manheim Township's participation as a partner in the City of Lancaster Bike at Lancaster Bike Share Program, and provides for the cooperation of the parties on the project, including cost sharing and authorizing the appropriate officials of the city to enter into and perform tasks associated with the intermunicipal agreement.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Hirsch.
Thank you, Council President. Resolutions 50 and 51 are authorizing intergovernmental agreements with Manheim Township and East Lampeter Township, respectively. We're hearing Resolution 50 currently. Essentially, these municipalities approach the city to ask if they could be integrated into the city's bike share program. And these resolutions consent to enter agreements for them to join. The agreements outline the respective rights and responsibilities of the parties entering the agreement. Over the next 5 years, Manheim Township is planning to add 15 bike share stations with 75 bicycles, while East Lampeter Township is hoping to add 6 stations with 30 bicycles. Both of these municipalities determine the locations that these bicycles will be placed. Additionally, the bike share will be planning to swap out some of the pedal cycles they currently have for e-bikes.
Thank you very much, Councilor Hirsch. Mayor Sarachi, you have something to add?
I just want to comment that in, 10 and a half years of coming to being in council meetings, this is the first time we've had 2 intermunicipal agreements with Manheim Township, and I am very excited about that, and let's keep it going. And I'm looking at you, Anthony, to take that message back to your commissioners to say that we can continue. And I do also just want to appreciate that our Department of Public Works did bridge replacement earlier this year, and I like the trend.
Thank you, Mayor Sarachi. That's a really interesting and important note to make. That has not happened in quite some time. Additional comments from members of council, this on resolution number 50 specifically. From the public. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Bacon.
Aye.
We will move to resolution number 51, which will sound familiar. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lancaster approving an intermunicipal agreement for cost sharing of Bike at Lancaster Bike Share Project by and between East Lampeder Township and the City of Lancaster, which documents the parties' respective responsibilities with respect to East Lampeder Township's participation as a partner in the City of Lancaster Bike Share Program, and provides for the cooperation of the parties on the project, including cost sharing, and authorizing the appropriate officials of the city to enter into and perform tasks associated with the intermunicipal agreement.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Hirsch, anything additional on this one?
Thank you, Council President. Really nothing to add.
Thank you. Yeah, essentially the same agreement, but with East Lampeder Township. Mayor Sarachi, do you remember the last time we did anything with East Lampeder Township?
You're unfairly putting me on the spot.
Sorry.
I do not, although Bridgeport, the planning around Bridgeport and the active transportation plan was definitely a joint effort, and I sit on a board with their township manager and appreciate the rapport that we have, so there you go.
Thank you. No, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'll also just make a note that I did speak with someone from, a representative from Lancaster Township government who is potentially interested in also adopting this agreement. So that sounds good. We'll get that in the works. Any additional council comments on this one? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Bacon.
Aye. That brings us to Administration Resolution Number 52, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the execution of a cooperation agreement with the College Avenue Property Holding Company, LLC, in connection with the College Avenue redevelopment Lancaster project at 250 College Avenue, Lancaster, PA, 17603.
Motion to approve. Second.
A motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Resolution 52 was presented at committee meeting by Director Campbell, amending the cooperation agreement for the College Avenue project grant. This concerns a cooperation agreement for the redevelopment capital assistance program grant of $1.5 million for the College Avenue redevelopment project. This will correct an error in the agreement. The agreement approved in April 2023 was the sub-grantee College Avenue Property Holdings, but the correct name of the company is College Avenue Property Holdings, LLC. The resolution is an amendment to correct the name.
Thank you very much. Councilor Craig. Any additional council comments on the resolution? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Bacon.
Aye. If I'm counting correctly, that ends our legislative agenda for this evening. We'll now move into our second public comment period. This is open for comments on issues that were not previously on the agenda. Again, duration of comments is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and please begin with your name, block of residence, or municipality for the meeting record. If there's anyone wishing to make public comment, please come to the podium at this time.
Good evening. Once again, Kieran Bauman, New Holland. I'm here tonight to speak in support of the ceasefire resolution, and continuing with what other previous speakers have said, I would like to share some facts about what's been occurring in Gaza. 3 days ago, on June 8th, Israeli forces working in tandem with U.S. soldiers attacked the Nusayrat refugee camp in southern Gaza. During this operation, nearly 300 Palestinians, many being women and children, were killed in order to return 4 Israeli hostages. Many are calling this a rescue operation, but what logic would that be? At a ratio of 300 to 4, this would insinuate that each Israeli life is worth at least 75 Palestinians. Is this an action the most moral army in the world would make? Is this an action that you would approve of? I certainly hope not. This is nothing short of butchery. At every opportunity they get, the IOF chooses the most brutal method of attack, purposely choosing to target entire families that are designed with airstrikes that are designed to assassinate members of the Palestinian resistance forces. The images that have been coming out of Gaza are, and have been for decades, reminiscent of the infamous photos that came out of Vietnam. Every week, there's an average of 3 My Lai massacres in Gaza, which on its own was enough to turn the American public opinion on the war. To date, more than 70,000 tons of bombs have been dropped on a city similar in size to Philadelphia. If the City Council would vote no to the ceasefire resolution, it would not be a neutral decision, but would indeed put you in the wretched company of apartheid South Africa, Rhodesia, and every other foul colonial project that has existed on this earth. Remember that it is not just the eyes of the people of Lancaster watching, but also the eyes of history. Free Palestine and ceasefire now.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello again. My name is Andy Chen. I've lived in Lancaster County for 20 years. I study at Millersville. In the Western world, genocide is only acceptably studied in retrospect. It's easy to say what you would have done during the Holocaust, during the Vietnam War, during the transatlantic slave trade, during any other major studied atrocity. But now that it is in front of society, our government has cowardly stalled. From the 9th Nuremberg trial, the commander of the Einsatzgruppen was asked, will you explain to the tribunal what conceivable threat to the security of the Wehrmacht a child constituted in your judgment? Will you agree that there was absolutely no rational basis for killing children except genocide and the killing of races? The answer included, the children would grow up, and surely, being the children of parents who had been killed, they would constitute a danger no smaller than that of the parents. These trials were the first time genocide was used as a legal context, in a legal context. Don't wait to study this in 40 years, 60 years, 80 years. Don't dehumanize Palestinians by allowing them to be wholesale stereotyped as terrorists, or dehumanize Jewish community by associating their values as compatible with weapons of mass destruction. A reminder that in legal terms, Israel is an occupying force and is therefore required to protect Palestine. Not only this, but Palestinian resistance is legally protected. Yesterday, the UN passed a U.S. proposed ceasefire plan. Hamas agreed. U.S. officials claim Israel agreed. However, within the last day, Israel has killed at least another 40 Palestinians. If this were truly about a hostage return from Hamas, the Gaza Strip would not be flattened into dust with the excuse that Hamas is hiding under various maternity wards and tents. If this were about Hamas or hostages, Israel would not be selling beachfront real estate and natural gas rights. This is a land grab. I say this as a Vietnamese refugee's child and a trans queer anthropologist. Permanent ceasefire and defunding Israel are bone-bare minimums. Free Palestine.
Thank you.
Hi, I know I've already been up. Palisa Mackey, Lancaster City. I forgot to mention last time, I'm also a community organizer with the Lancaster Changemakers Collective. We are a BIPOC queer organization that seeks to educate and mobilize the community towards creating sustainable change. So I once again am very grateful for everybody who's come here to support the Palestinian people through this genocide, to call on you to use your power to call for a ceasefire resolution and vote yes on it. But I also wanted to mention that I am taking part in organizing a Juneteenth for DRC Rally for Congo on Juneteenth next week. It'll be at 6 o'clock in Penn Square. Anybody here who wants to come, please come. We're going to be educating people about the violence and the exploitation and the slave labor of the Congolese people. As somebody that has protested for Black lives for several years, queer lives, and as an African woman, I truly do believe that none of us are free until all of us are free. So definitely come out. We're going to have poetry. We're going to raise awareness about the exploitation of the Democratic Republic of Congo and what people can do to stop the genocide of these people. It's estimated, I think, right now that 7 million Congolese people have been displaced due to Western-backed militia groups like the M23, and that has led to severe suffering. And unfortunately, a lot of American companies and the American government is complicit in funding these groups and stealing the resources of the people of Congo, such as coltan, which powers pretty much all of the electronic devices in our world today. So I just wanted to bring that up. Yeah. Thank you.
Good evening. Hi. My name is Miguel. I'm from the 300 block of Nevin Street. I'm just here to voice support for the ceasefire, and I have just a statement here. So, quote, every person, women, children, elders, they're all afraid and frightened of the drones. When drones are flying, they don't like to eat anything because they are too afraid of those drones. This was from a 2014 Stanford and NYU report called Living Under Drones. In this very same report, it is also quoted, quote, we don't eat properly on those days when strikes occur because we know an innocent Muslim was killed, end quote. Yet drone strikes by the U.S. are never called terrorist or terroristic in any fashion. How could the land of the free, home of the brave be so savage as to be the terrorists? Flying while Muslim? Well, we know how that goes. That's the terrorist. But flying a drone, slaughtering innocent Muslims, that's just national security, self-defense. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we dropped bombs on Nagasaki, and we still to this day ask, is it justified? But isn't an atomic bomb on innocent civilians the definition of terrorism? Yet we still don't think of it that way. So why, you may, I hope, ask the double standard? Well, how else do you justify killing 30 times more people in retaliation to October 7th? How else do you justify, in the words of the Israeli genocide scholar at Hebrew University, Dr. Amos Goldberg, a genocide? If you can't call out this racist double standard by calling for a permanent ceasefire, then you might as well say that we welcome you only for your cheap labor, but keep your sob story to yourself. We don't welcome that, nor do we care. If that is the case, then how dare you call yourself a welcoming city to the faces of those Palestinian refugees, past, present, and future? Ceasefire is the welcoming standard. Thank you.
Hello, Anna Hess, 200 block of West Orange. I'm also here to talk about ceasefire as a welcoming standard. I know that you all want to continue the image of Lancaster as a welcoming city, which I think we all do as well. And I think it's important to note that for refugees coming in to live in our city, that is not a matter of choice. They have been forcibly removed from a place where they would much rather be. And therefore, it's part of welcoming to acknowledge that lack of choice, to indeed welcome and say, yes, you are welcome here. But that's not enough. You need to also very explicitly state and promote that you would like them to be able to be back where they came from if that is what they wish. There is, I think, a level of hopelessness in the sense of, we're not a very big city. What can a resolution by our council do? And I do understand that. I'm not expecting the Lancaster City Council to end this genocide single-handedly. But I think it is important to note that part of why these war crimes are allowed to happen, in a sense, is the kind of tacit acceptance of Israeli violence just as a matter of course. And the more we refuse to accept that as just the way things are, the more that individuals, small cities will speak up and say, no, we don't accept this. The more it forces people to confront the status quo. And the more it allows your community members, your Palestinian community members, and any other community members who are fleeing from any sort of other similar situation, the true understanding that we see your pain and we are full on for advocating to reaffirm your rights and your rights to live in your homeland, your right to return. Please pass this ceasefire resolution. Ceasefire is the welcoming standard. Thank you.
If there's any additional public comments, please come to the podium.
Sorry, everybody. I know it's really late. I'm going to try to be 1 minute. My name's Samuel Rafiq Pollock. I lived in Lancaster since 2009. I moved here in 10th grade, graduated from McCaskey.
Would you mind sharing your block of residence?
114 Euclid Avenue. I live in the city. Lived there with my wife, Olivia Pollock. Lived in Lancaster her whole life. Since 2018, we own our home there. I love Lancaster City. It means a lot to me. It's really an amazing, beautiful, welcoming community. I'm here with all these wonderful people because in 1994, I was born in Palestine. I was born in occupied East Jerusalem. And I'm here to say that the world's more connected than it may seem. My dad works in Ephrata at a place called Mennonite Central Committee. He goes to church here in Lancaster City at East Chestnut Street Mennonite Church. My godparents live in the Jenin district of occupied Palestine. My first memories, even though I went to high school in McCaskey, my first memories were, kindergarten in Gaza. And my first childhood memories were playing with my childhood friends in Gaza. Mostly, I'm thinking about what people are experiencing in Gaza right now. The reality is, no matter how you slice it, it's the deadliest conflict of our century at the rate Israel is killing people. That is what Oxford, they're killing more men, women, and children at a faster rate than any conflict of our century. It's not radical to call for a ceasefire to have that stop. That's all I have to say. And it's one of those things where we don't think that it's related to us, but the reality is my tax dollars go to that. Regardless of how we feel about it, the U.S. government is the one supplying it. I go to work here in Lancaster, and my money goes to, kill the people in the place I grew up. I just want us to say that we're against that. Please, please consider voting for it. Next, it's not radical. It kills me to see what Palestinians are going through. It's the worst humanitarian catastrophe imaginable for them. It's what's called in Arabic for them the Nakba, or catastrophe, and it's been happening since 1948. And on World Refugee Day, we should all be thinking about Palestinians, because in 1948, 750,000 Palestinians were forced from their homes. And in Gaza, where I grew up, about 80% of people in Palestine are either those refugees themselves or descendants of those refugees themselves, and those refugees have never been allowed the right to return to their home. And if there's one thing I know about Palestinians, it's that they will remain, they will resist, and they will return. Thank you so much.
Good evening.
Good evening. John Gavea, 100 block of East Orange Street. And I guess I'm here to change the mood, if people don't mind. A couple of weeks ago, I came to the city council and complained about, among other things, traffic right here in downtown because the lights were not coordinated. So you wound up going block to block to block to block. And since I'm an 80-year-old who lives in downtown Lancaster, I really didn't need all that smoke going into my lungs. Well, I have to say that Director Campbell and Mayor Sirachi came and explained what the situation was, short-term and long-term, and how they were going to remedy it. And I'm here to say that over the last couple of weeks, it has been remedied. Traffic now flows through much more smoothly. I'm not sure if it's at the same rate of speed or a slower rate of speed, which I understand was the objective, but people listened. Something got done. I've been listening tonight to people talking about whether or not Lancaster is a welcoming city. In the last 40 years, as I told this group some months ago, I've been involved in hosting, greeting, making transitions for 10 different sets of refugees, individuals, and families, primarily through my church, but also through some other social organizations. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to say that there are many churches, many social organizations in Lancaster that have been working for years to help resettle refugees. And yes, we know they would rather have stayed home than had to come here, but they came here. And the point is, we did make them feel welcome. Some of them have done very well, and so a few of them, situation changed, a few of them have been able to go back home to their home country. But we did what we needed to do to help make these people make the transition to Lancaster. And since I'm from New York City, I'm going to tell you, transition to Lancaster is not the easiest thing in the world, even for an American. This place is different. Some of those differences are good, some of those differences are not so good. My point is, we're working to do something about it, and I really don't like it when somebody says Lancaster is not a welcoming city, because we are.
Thank you, Mr. Gavea. If there's any additional public comments, now would be the time to make them. Going once. Okay, hearing none, I'm closing the second public comment period for this evening. Thank you to those who participated. Our next item, excuse me, on the agenda is the report of the mayor. Mayor Sirachi.
Given the late hour, I will hold my report. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is the report of President of Council. I'm going to opt to do the same. Are there any council comments before we close this evening? Okay, hearing none and having reached the conclusion of our agenda, I will hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Someone needs to second it. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We're adjourned.